Okay, so when the S24 Ultra came out, there was a pretty good argument for it being the best Android phone on the market. No doubt it was really expensive, starting at $1,300, but if you were in the market for one of those high-end Android slab smartphones, this was probably the best option you had. It just nailed so many things from across the board and really just didn't have many flaws apart from the price. But now a couple of other Android phones have also come out and have actually given the S24 Ultra some competition. So I want to give a review 6 to 7 months after release with some comparisons to other phones that have come out since this one's release. It's been around a week since I took this S24 Ultra out of the box, by the way, so keep that in mind for battery life metrics and whatnot. And I'm going to start by talking about the first thing you notice when you take the S24 Ultra out of the box, and that is the build quality, which is honestly my favorite that I've seen in any phone. I've been a fan of the design of the Galaxy Note lineup for a while now. I love the boxy corners, and honestly, this was a reason I didn't feel the need to wait for the S25 Ultra because some renders show that design language becoming more similar to the regular Samsung phones with the rounded corners. This year they added the titanium rails, which look pretty cool, but I'm not going to test the durability. I've been using this phone caseless for the whole time, and so far haven't gotten any scratches on the screen or any scuffs on the side rails, but it's still very early days, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, every time I pick it up, somehow I'm impressed by the build quality and design. They also this year made the screen flat completely, so no accidental touches anymore. This color that I've got is the titanium gray, which is, I think, by far the best color available, and honestly is one of my favorite colors in any phone that's ever come out. I really don't know what they were cooking with the orange and purple ones though. Then I guess also part of the build quality is the S Pen, which to be honest, I didn't expect to be using much, and admittedly don't use that often, but it honestly can be handy occasionally. I can see it being really useful if you want to sign a document really quickly, or maybe you're in a lecture or something and you want to take some handwritten maths notes, but you don't have pen and paper at easy access. It's just insane to me that they fit an entire pen in this 5,000 milliamp hour battery phone. I mean, it is a big phone, but I'm just imagining how insane the battery life could have gotten if they removed the S Pen and made an even bigger battery. But we'll get on to battery life later. Next we have the screen, which to me is the biggest upgrade from my iPhone XS Max that I was coming from. 6.8 inch, 1440p, 120Hz LTPO, AMOLED, 2600 nits. Those are basically all the specs you could possibly want. I don't see how they could have made the screen any more high-end than this. This year they apparently also made an anti-reflective coating on top of the screen, which to be honest I can't compare with previous year's Samsung phones because I haven't used them full time, but I can confirm I haven't had any noticeable issues with reflections in bright environments. Just like the build quality, I literally cannot complain about a single aspect of this screen. Samsung's been known to have the best screens for a while, and they make the screens in a bunch of other phones, so I would expect nothing less from their highest end phone. The bezels are super thin, hole punch is tiny, which is another huge upgrade for me. Next we have the cameras. Okay, so the main camera is the same 200 megapixel sensor as last year's phone. Automatically though, you're gonna get 12 megapixel photos, which you can switch pretty quickly in the camera app between 12 megapixel, 50 megapixels, and the ridiculous 200 megapixels. This might be a bit controversial, but for some scenes, I kinda like Samsung's less neutral, brighter colored, more saturated look. But I could definitely see why someone would like the iPhone's camera, for example, way more, which is more concerned with giving a photo that's way more true to life. It's also pretty common for the photo I'm about to take to look pretty terrible in the viewfinder, but only once I've taken the photo and looked at it afterwards do Samsung decide to apply all their processing and you get the sharpness and photo quality that you paid for. There's also a 50 megapixel 5x zoom camera, which gives you the classic Samsung 100x zoom. There's a 12 megapixel ultra wide too. This is definitely a class leading camera system, and it has basically all the features that you would expect from a high-end phone. Portrait mode is great, but again, often does the processing after you've taken the pictures, so don't worry about how bad the edge detection looks in your viewfinder. Night mode is still here. 8K video is still here. There's just so many features jammed into the camera system of this phone, so I think it's best to just link Mr. Who's the Boss's camera comparison between the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which goes into way more detail than I can in this video. And next up we have the battery life, which is much less opinion based than the cameras, and I can confirm the battery life on this phone is some of the best in any phone. It's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and I'm getting, on the lower end, at least 8 hours of screen on time on a single charge, and occasionally I can hit 9+ hours if I'm not out too long and the brightness isn't on its maximum setting while being in direct sunlight. Surprisingly, I also haven't found that big of a difference in battery life between having the phone on 1080p and having it on 1440p. I can imagine lowering the refresh rate might make a difference, but there's absolutely no need to do that, and it feels incredibly smooth, so just use it and be grateful for it. It also supports 45 watt fast charging, so this is one of the higher end battery experiences that you can get in a phone. Performance is another pretty easy pillar I can tackle. It's pretty objective. This is one of the few Samsung model phones shipped in Europe that actually has the Qualcomm chip. This is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. I haven't used an Exynos phone, but I've only heard about the significantly lacking experience compared to that on the Snapdragon, from performance to battery life to overheating. But yeah, this phone with the 8 Gen 3 in specific is stupid fast. No stuttering, no apps crashing. It's an overall really fluid experience, and I can't complain. And then finally, we have the software. Before I talk about One UI, 7 years of security and OS upgrades. Who would have known? Or should I say, who would have known that we would get this in an Android phone? So that means you'll have your last software update after 2031, which is just insane. Okay, but other than that, I've been a fan of Samsung's Android skin, which I can't say for a lot of other manufacturers. Their stock skin looks fine to me. I haven't felt the need to change it. I also haven't experienced any major bugs yet, which you can't say about every Android flagship. Google. Everything's been super smooth. Customizability is nice with apps like GoodLock. I'm also planning to talk more specifically about the switch from iOS to Android in a separate video, so stay tuned for that. But there's definitely nothing to worry about on the software front. And was that to say it's perfect? No. I would probably prefer if it just had like stock Android, like a Pixel, but One UI is definitely on the better end of the spectrum of Android skins. Okay, so we've wrapped up the main features of this phone that you can probably tell are pretty good across the board, but you'd also expect that from a $1,300 flagship. And actually the thing about this being a Samsung phone and it being 6 to 7 months after its release is that you can find it for way cheaper than that. I personally found it for $900, which is, to be honest, a really lucky bargain for what's known as the highest end phone on the market right now. So if you can find it on that price, which is unlikely, I'd probably consider pulling the trigger. But if the price range you're looking at is around $1,100 to $1,200, you have options like the Pixel 9 Pro XL that's coming out soon, or the iPhone 16 Pros. Now, if you want an iPhone, I think you know who you are and you're probably not considering an Android flagship. But if you're considering the new Pixels, which have been very well reviewed until now, I think you could go either way between the Pixel 9 Pro XL and the S24 Ultra in terms of high-end Android phones. Some people are going to prefer the cameras and clean software experience of the Pixel 9 Pro XL, and others are going to lean towards the S24 Ultra for its high-end hardware and performance. And it's not to say that the S24 Ultra has a bad camera system. It's definitely top 3, but I think watching a video on the 9 Pro XL could probably help you with telling you which camera style you prefer. We can make a bunch of other comparisons too, like the OnePlus 12 being like 95% of the phone for like $400 less. But to be honest, this is a great phone. And in my eyes, is probably the most cracked phone you can get. Everything is just dialed to 11. I would probably go as far as to saying it is still worth like $1,100, which is a common price I've seen it being sold for recently, if you're willing to dish out that kind of cash. And even though the Pixel 9 Pro XL has a lot of good reviews, I think a lot of people are going to lean towards the S24 Ultra because of its just more reliable hardware, mainly in terms of the chip that's in this phone. So yeah, in my eyes, without actually having tried the Pixel 9 Pro XL, I think the S24 Ultra is still king across the flagship Android space, and definitely look out for those deals online. Don't get it for its retail price, especially because the S25 Ultra is right around the corner and is coming out in a couple of months. But a huge thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed and found it useful, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.